we all have moments as children where our parents don't meet our needs in that moment in the exact way that we need, and we can't communicate it. And we make up a story about ourselves and them and love, and we carry it forward into our adult life.
Alex Waters, thank you for coming onto the show. First question I've got for you is, what have you been learning recently, which is blowing your mind?
Oh, well, firstly, thanks for having me. And what have I been learning recently? It's been blowing my mind. Well, recently I've been in a what I would consider an existential crisis, and it's like the same cyclical patterns coming up, but the external just looks different. So it's like I'm repeating patterns through different external variations of life. And the thing that I've been learning recently is that we will keep going through cycles and sabotage and hitting walls until we choose to actually really listen to the voice that's whispering from our soul, being like, you need to look over here, motherfucker.
What does that actually look like?
Okay. So when I was
funny, like,
yeah, well, when I was 17, when I was 16, sorry, in grade 11 in high school, I was an amazing musician, and I wanted to go to the West Australian Academy of Performing Arts to study jazz trombone. But I got to the end of grade 11 and there was kind of like a fork in the road. And the story I told myself was, you either go to university and study music and maybe make it and probably become a teacher, or you go make money. And I chose money over my passion. And I've consistently been sort of doing that in my life, and pushing music aside to pursue, money or the making of money, even if it's in a way that actually does fulfill me. There's just this nagging thing on the side, like, yo, you need to look at this. And that's kind of just where I've been at the moment, bro. It's like I'm dedicating all this time and energy to growing my coaching business, which is something I really enjoy. I'm helping a lot of people. I'm amazing at what I do. And this thing just keeps popping up and like, yo, when are you gonna listen to this? So
how's it popped up recently?
I suppose just being in a space of not feeling as fulfilled doing the same things that I've been doing for a while, and like really questioning what is the thing I most want to dedicate myself to. Yeah. So, it's, those moments where like you feel stuck and you sort of like doing something that 2 years ago you're like, man, this is what I dreamed of doing. And you get there and you're like, I feel a little bit stuck, a bit unclear. I've got all this confusion and overwhelm coming up. I'm questioning things. Well, I think a lot of people in that space avoid questioning it. I choose to go straight into it and actually inspect what's there. It's the same as like in a relationship, right? I think it's healthy to at times really get clear on like, is this person who I want to be with? And it's healthy to go through the roller coaster of those questions to either get to the answer, yes or no. Because if it's a yes, it's a way more certain yes than it was before. And if it's a no, well, beautiful. That's a redirection.
Where do you think people stuff up? Like, where do you think who you may work with?
Well, for me, like I think anyone is afraid of the unknown. Humans are typically afraid of the unknown, and questioning and seeking and inspecting things has us diving into the space of the unknown. And that's usually where our fear lies.
What do you think that like looks like for the normal person?
So it could be like, I'd rather settle for what I know I have right now, even though I'm not 100% yes. I'd rather settle for it and choose it instead of diving into the unknown and really questioning things and looking at what is possible and what is actually out there. And so, or it's like, well, this thing over here makes me look good and people validate me for it. I'm good at it. People approve of me. And so I'm just going to keep choosing to play that game. But in my experience, that's a zero-sum game, and you never get to a space of true peace, fulfillment, and abundance in that paradigm. That's what most people are playing.
Oh, so true. So the big question for you is here, what's like the most unknown that you have had to face in order to get out of that game?
Well, one of my really good friends, Victoria, she calls these moments life quakes. Okay. And she says that like people get to the other side of a life quake by two things. Like life is always orchestrating for our highest good. And so what tends to happen is the universe, God, life will orchestrate situations and circumstances and scenarios to for our highest calling to rise up, and that we either listen to it and choose to take a leap, or we will be pushed into such a place of discomfort and pain that it forces us to change at some point. And you know, the age-old adage is, if you don't listen to the whispers, then there will be a hurricane. You know? So, yeah, man, I think it's like, for people listening right now, I believe everyone truly has a higher calling inside of them, that their soul is like crying out to be heard. And for most people, the immediate question is, well, what does that mean? Is it possible? Can I actually do that? What will people think of me? And I think when we're in these spaces of questioning things, our mind wants to make this picture very black or white. It's like, wow, everyone's going to cast me out if I suddenly step forward and choose to pursue my career of acting, or, and I'm going to have to burn everything that I've currently got and leave it behind, when that's actually not true. But that's just usually how the mind works, black and white. Yeah. So to answer your question a little more specifically, bro, because you said, what's the greatest unknown that I've had to go into? Well, at 29, I had been with my son, who's now been with my son's mother, my son's now almost 4. I've been with his mother for about 16 months. He was 3 months old, and our relationship just like blew up. It was really hanging in there by a thread, but I'd bought into the illusion. I'd lied to myself and told myself it was all fine. It was going to be great. And it wasn't. And it wasn't actually meant for me or for her, but we kept saying yes to it, and it kept getting worse and worse. And suddenly, it blew up. It became really toxic, really abusive. I broke my femur. It was like, how many things could life throw at me all at once to put me in a deep enough place of pain for me to actually introspect and go, bro, you're not on the right path. Like, listen.
What was happening with career and business at that time as well?
So at that point, I still owned 2 real estate agencies. I still owned all my businesses, but most of them were self-sustaining or operating without me. So I was kind of like semi-retired, I guess you could say, at 28, 29.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Contributed?
Was I contributing?
You think that, like, being semi-retired at that age, do you think that contributed to how you were showing up, or do you think it was all just you?
Yes. Yes.
Ah, that's interesting, right? That's really interesting. I'm fascinated by that.
Good question.
Most people have the goal of, oh, I want to feel retired and I want to make all this money and I want to get to this level where like we're gonna have success and I can chill and I can like provide for people that I care for. And it's like, I love the example of you because like you were there. And at that time you were like darkest hole.
Yeah. It's interesting because you're right. Like most people say one of their biggest goals, they want financial freedom, right? And what people are really saying in that is, I want to be free of responsibility and I want to have all my time. And the image that they conjure up is I'm going to be sitting by a pool somewhere on a tropical island, drinking whatever cocktail I want without doing anything. And money is just flowing into my bank. When you get to that place, though, what you realize is for the first time, you're no longer operating from a place of, I need to do this to build up wealth or grow. And you're suddenly in a place of, I can do anything with my time and there is infinite possibilities. And you then kind of have to actually create intrinsic motivation and drive, not from a place of survival, but from a place of contribution and impact and service, and like from deep within. And that, bro, when there's space, it's like, what do people do right now? It's super popular to go on a 5-day Vipassana retreat, right? Which is a 5-day silent meditation. Well, why do they do that? Because when you create space, shit comes up.
Yeah. Oh man.
So
I was just thinking when you said that, I was like, man, being in that position is like wherever your ego is at that time would just go like this big because it can
totally,
dominate, right?
totally. Yeah.
Man,
So, I mean, I wouldn't say for anyone to avoid it at all. I think it's a great place to be, but it's super helpful to be aware of what can come with that place.
insane. So you got there, worst part unknown. How did you shift the paradigm? Like
I
what did
mean,
you
it took
learn
me,
about yourself and how did you like apply it?
yeah. I mean, firstly, I felt really blessed. Like my son was born, I didn't have to work. Um, it was great. And I was still doing some work here and there. I wasn't doing nothing. And then when we went through the separation and things got really hard, like it was the worst space I've ever been in my entire life. Broken femur, she's moved out. We went through a really toxic separation. And I suppose I was really grateful because I actually had space to process what was coming up and be with it, rather than, fuck, I've got to get up and go to work to get today, pull it together. And I think that that's where a lot of people turn to medication and pills and stuff like that, because it's like, I need to be able to have my shit together on some level. I didn't. I could literally just drink a carton of beer and on a Wednesday if I wanted to and play Xbox, which sometimes I did. So honestly, man, I got through it by just getting through it. I just followed the process. I went out and partied a lot. I was taking a lot of drugs, drinking a lot again. And the flip side to that was I was working with psychedelics. I was doing breath work. And I was actually feeling things and healing them. And what I learned was that we're always going to attract people in our life to teach us our deepest lessons and reflect back to us what we need to learn to heal our greatest wounds. And for me, that was humility. That was learning humility, learning empathy. It was like, for the first time in my life, I actually grieved and actually felt deep pain and suffering. And at 29, I'd never really felt that before. Never had anyone die in my life before. But I'd also had events that had possibility for that to be expressed. Like my parents divorced when I was 17, but I pushed it all down and I didn't let myself feel it. And so it just, it just exploded like a volcano erupting at this time in my life. And yeah, man, I mean, I learned so much about attraction patterns, relationship patterns, my wounds, how my traumas were playing out in life, like why I didn't have good friendship circles, like just, it was like the ultimate self-development workshop was life happening.
As it always will be. Do you think that, because you didn't get to express those feelings of grief or some of the sadness stuff until later, do you think that previously that also made you, because I'm just like learning here as well, do you think that made you fall in love too quickly or fall in love really hard and get like attached?
Yeah, definitely. I had a very codependent style of attachment and what most people call love. I would say that I had certain desires and wants for a partner, and basically I was just like projecting that onto Atlas's mum and seeing what I wanted to see in her and how she fit for me in my life, rather than getting to really know her, and deciding from a really grounded place if it was a good fit and compatible and all that sort of stuff. And amongst all of that, bro, there was still a lot of love in the relationship. Like there was so much love, which is why there was also so much attachment and so much pain. And I think it's those experiences that often, teach us the greatest lessons because we're so deep in it.
Yeah, man, I can like relate to that. And I feel that on like a whole nother level, because that happened to me, I would say like real early 20s, some sort of similar, and I was so codependent of someone for a while, and it really breaks you. So thanks for sharing that, man, because I don't hear many people speak on that so openly with such like expression. So like it's really motivating. Which kind of leads on to my next question. I'm just curious about you. Like what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of like the man I am today, bro. I'm just really proud of how resilient I am and have been, and that no matter what I've gone through, I've been able to alchemize it for not only my greater good, but for the greater good of everyone around me and my community. And yeah, I'm really proud that I've never given up. It's like there's something in me that has me just, it's like there's an intrinsic knowing inside me that I will always make it through, no matter what is in my way, no matter what challenges come up, that I'll always be willing to look at my part, always be willing to step forward and step up to the plate if needed. And yeah, and I'm also really proud of just being a father, man. It's amazing. Yeah. And so, I mean, so many things. I have a company that, my companies create income for like 70 people, like 70 families around the world, So just that alone, is really cool. So, yeah.
That is so cool. Do you have those moments where you like stop and reflect and you just like like burst out emotions?
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, I had in February this year, we celebrated one of my company's 7-year anniversary. And yeah, I just like feel really proud and grateful for the past version of me that just was so delusionally optimistic and ballsy to just start something. Like this is my outsourcing company. So we've got about 65 virtual assistants that work for us in the Philippines that we provide to companies all around the world, and a team of about 4 or 5 in Australia here. And yeah, 7 years, man. Like most businesses fail in the first 2 years, I think it is. And here we are 7 years later, stronger than ever. I've got multiple employees that have been with the company longer than 5 years. Tessa, my original operations manager, is still with the company today in the Philippines. And so there's so many cool things about it. Yeah.
Man, that is so cool. Like, how'd you do it? Like, in terms of like getting it done, like, because I'm not sure on the story of getting that started, because you've had other businesses. I'm like, man, that sounds like it just went up so quick. Like, did you do it yourself at the start? Did you ask for a lot of help? Like,
yeah, it's interesting, you know, because this is like probably my favorite business that I've ever owned. So for people listening, I've owned 2 real estate businesses, I've a residential and a commercial agency that I sold in 2021. I've got the outsourcing company Workspace Co, and that's been operating since 2016. I've had a mortgage broking company that failed, like many other little ventures here and there that have failed. At one point, I had a building company that was tendering for government money to build stuff. So, well, I've done all sorts of things. But this company was interesting because I started it in 2016 when I was busy. Like, I had a real estate agency. I just started that. I didn't have time to operate another business. So I had to set it up in a way that it worked without me. And it really kind of grew organically just through word of mouth. And I think looking back on it now, I mean, when we first started, it was a market that was pretty unknown. 7 years ago, if you said virtual assistants to someone, they said, "What's that?" And then you say, "Oh, someone in the Philippines works for you." They're like, "What the fuck? You know, how does that work?" So I think it helps that we're in a market that has rapidly boomed over the last, 7 years. And yeah, man, I just started it without, with like putting 30 minutes a week into it, and it didn't need to be anything because I had my main thing. It was just a little side hustle. And within 2 years, it was turning over, $200,000-$300,000 a year accidentally. And then, over time, we've just grown it incrementally, and I've gone into it full time at one point, and now I have a general manager that runs it full time and here in Australia, and a team. So
that's
yeah,
cool.
I think it's one of those things of like, to quote Tony Robbins, most people overestimate what they can achieve in a year and underestimate what they can achieve in 10 years. And that's it, right? It's only been 7 years, and it's a 7-figure company. It runs without me, and it's awesome. So,
dude, it's like you should write a book called The 30-Minute Work Week.
yeah, maybe. I actually met Tim Ferriss 1 year when I was speaking at the same conference as him back in 2015. So, yeah.
What's he like?
He's cool. He's like just like the way you'd expect him to be, really. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I know you've done like as well. I've been interested in asking you this question. The thing about it, like, we've changed the tone quite a bit. But I know, like, jumping in the personal development world and some of the things that you're doing and the travel that you've done and being in the position that you're in, that I'm like, Alex has done some crazy shit. Like, he's been out there, he's for sure done some crazy shit. I'd love to hear some of the stories if you have any on top of mind that you're like, this was cool, that you'd also, you may recommend or it might have been worked for you that you wouldn't intentionally go, you need to do this to someone. Be like, it worked for me. And if someone asked me the question, would I encourage them to do it? And if they were like you, I'd say yes.
Okay.
So,
just give me some more direction. Like, what kind of crazy story are you talking about? Like, in terms of
some that were just like real fun, like right outside your comfort zone, that you might have had an experience or done something, and you're like, this is different, and like it worked for me. And if everyone's in the same position, felt like they should do it.
I've got a couple of crazy stories. Yeah. So, well, I'll just start with a recent one. So last year in May, I went to Bali when the borders opened, and that was a really beautiful trip. Met up with Matt Karma, who, his girlfriend, and they brought along one of their friends, Amy, to dinner. She was awesome. And we just got chatting, didn't hook up, nothing. 4 weeks later, she messaged me on Instagram and said, "Hey, can I ask you something outrageous?" And I was like, "Of course you can. Like, I'm a space for that. Of course." She's like, "Cool. I thought you might be." She's like, "Okay, so what would you say if I invited you to be my partner for the week at a couples tantra retreat? And I was like, okay. Like, and so she was like, so it would involve like, intimacy, and, obviously we don't have to do anything we don't want to, but it would involve like sex and all that stuff and connection and probably some deep work. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'd probably say yes. I'd probably say yes. And so she goes, all right, great. Well, you're going to laugh at this, but it's in Bali, and it was a Monday, right? She's like, it's in Bali this Saturday. It starts. And when I tell you the name of the retreat, you're gonna laugh at me, but the name is Soulmate. So I was like, all right, she's making moves.
I
Got
like
it.
the pre-frame that she did to everything. Like,
Yeah.
like super comfortable. Like, does she want to marry me? Does she? I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, man, my body was definitely a yes to it. And there was an attraction on levels with her. And so we had many conversations about it. I booked my flights, and that Saturday I was in Bali. I had to organize care for Atlas, my son, and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, that Saturday I was in Bali and went to the retreat with her and had this like huge connective week, some of the deepest intimacy I've ever experienced in my life. Including like so every day we had to do a 1 hour love appointment where basically for the first 20 minutes was a tantric meditation of some kind. One of those was the woman lay on the bed with her eyes closed, with her legs spread, and her yoni out. That's another word for pussy. It's the Sanskrit word, I think. And basically the man would sit in meditation position at the end of the bed, gazing directly at the woman's yoni for 20 minutes. And so this was one, and we couldn't talk for the whole hour. So a little alarm went off at 20 minutes. And then after that, we went into 40 minutes of lovemaking, which had to include penetration. But it was interesting, right? Because like what came up for me as I was gazing at her pussy was, man, so much actually guilt around like how I disrespected women in my life. And I had a flashback of Atlas's birth because I was there, and like just even my mum came into my mind, which was super weird, like, in this sort of supposed to be sexual environment, right? And then when we were in our lovemaking, we went into a yin position. So there's like yin and yang, and yang is sort of the more masculine, like fucking, and yin is like soft and slower and, just like yoga. And we went into a position called the scissor position, where a man can actually enter a woman while he is soft. So without being hard. But I was hard. So we're in that position anyway. We're just laying there, eye gazing. And as we were eye gazing, I just felt like so much, all this shame and guilt, like for how I treated women, just coming all to the surface. And I just started crying. And the day before, after having a lovemaking appointment, Amy had said, oh, your fingernails are really long. Like, it would be great if you could cut them. And I was like, all right, cool. That next day, and I hadn't cut them yet, but this next day, we're in this moment, I'm starting to cry, and she just grabbed my hand and she put each one of my fingers in her mouth and she kind of sucked it. And it was like a sign of affection. But in that moment, I felt like that was her just loving and accepting all of me in everything that I was, in such this raw, like vulnerable moment. And we weren't talking, right? So, man, it was so powerful and so healing. And she was crying and like, yeah, so healing, right? And never cried during sex like that before. But just so much healing happened that week. So that was a crazy story.
And my heart like dropped into my guts. I was like, holy.
Yeah.
What?
It's deep stuff.
That is
Yeah.
deep.
Because I feel like, for every heterosexual man and woman, typically we have some level of wound with the opposite sex. And so there's just so much healing for when you're finally in a space where you can be held by, you allow yourself to be held, and you can be held by someone who can actually hold you in a healthy way, healthy and responsible way, a member of the opposite sex. And just so healing, man. So healing, because most of us as men are like, I wish my mom, had shown me more love or nurtured me in a more specific way. And that's nothing, no criticism on our moms. It's just that we all have moments as children where our parents don't meet our needs in that moment in the exact way that we need, and we can't communicate it. And we make up a story about ourselves and them and love, and we carry it forward into our adult life.
Heart beating so fast you're saying that. I'm like, what's my animal body trying to tell me right now?
Yeah.
Crazy, man. And I love it, to be honest. I think that's so cool. Like, so cool to be in a position like that. And, it is real left of center. I'm sure that quite a few people listening to this, like, I haven't heard of that before, or don't even know what sort of that world is like. And how you just related it back to the normal world and the healing, I thought was really beneficial, because it is. It's out there and it's not the only thing. But wow, how did you feel after it? Like when it was all done, like did you just feel clearer? Like what was the?
Just so open and so loving. And like we had a devotion ceremony before the end of the retreat where like she was literally on her hands and knees bowing to me, and I did the same to her. And it was the concept that I really loved that we learned at this retreat was that you're bowing to love itself. So I imagine there's probably someone listening right now that's like, what the fuck? I would never bow to a man, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to bow to my girlfriend or whatever. And in that, I just say, get curious. There's an opportunity for everyone when we actually choose to live in reverence of our partners, or, women or men, whoever we're opposite to. But bowing to love itself, we can all do that. We can all agree that we're willing to be devoted to love. And that doesn't have to be about a particular person. So I just love that practice, because it really brings about that, the concept for me that true unconditional love is about giving, not about taking or receiving. It is about receiving, but it's ultimately about giving. And receiving is giving as well when you get into it. So,
man, I love that so much. And I think as well, like I don't know about you, and it's been an experience of mine, is that men want love so bad. So bad. And whatever the stories you mentioned that we're growing up, whatever it is, and wherever we're at, is we sort of find ourselves in a way where we deflect it. In, and we try not to, and it's something that like we yearn for so deeply, but it's like unmasculine to grow up like not loving men and learn it from our fathers or something like that. We deserve and yearn for love so much, and like having an experience like that, like so connected, actually makes me like quite jealous. So
yeah, I can give you the details for the retreat, bro.
I'm not sure my partner would be open to going there with me, that's for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Some convincing.
Yeah. I mean, it is confronting to receive that much love and to allow that much love in. And it feels vulnerable, and like the shield over your heart is like penetrated and just destroyed, ripped away. and you're nothing, and you're just bare, and you're open, and you're there, and you're crying, and you're feeling it all, and you realize in that moment that nothing else matters, and who fucking cares what you look like, because that's all we all want. And if you don't allow yourself to have that in your life, you will unconsciously be seeking it through every interaction and iteration and cycle of your life, through what you do. Usually that's the way men usually try and get love, is by performing. Oh, I made heaps of money in my job, blah, blah, blah. Literally was just talking with a woman on Instagram today. She's got a 1-year-old baby. Her partner's a lawyer. He's a fucking amazing barrister. And he is blind to the fact that she's about to leave because he's so committed to his work and overcommitted to his work that he's not actually present with the family. And, you know, that is what you said, just like in an actual situation, someone deflecting, avoiding the love. Because like, why the fuck are you working so hard for? Most of us say we want it so that we can spend more time with our family and have more time and freedom. But when you've got the opportunity to do that right now, are you fucking taking it?
Yeah. And fucking good.
Yeah.
That got me fired up, man. That's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's real powerful.
Mm.
Jump to the next part. I'd love to hear about you and the work that you've done with psychedelics and how this year you have a retreat come on. Because I know for you that a lot of your healing, you know, as well as the crazy recent like sex and love retreats, psychedelics have been really healing for you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, in 2017, I started taking psychedelics. And there's two things that have been most powerful in my healing journey, and like stepping like from a place of codependence, cheating, using drugs, alcohol, overworking, not being happy and fulfilled, not being healthy, to like where I am now, which is the healthiest I've ever been, living on purpose, you know, like really happy, fulfilled. I have great relationships in my life, all that stuff. The two things that have helped my transformation the most is coaching and psychedelics. And yeah, so my very first experience of unconditional love came in 2018 when I took 9 grams of mushrooms on a mountain in California, and went for a walk by myself. And my intention was to experience my heart being blown wide open and to experience unconditional love. And that's what happened. You know, and I just felt all this love pouring into me from the universe. And it was like that moment changed the game for me forever, because I suddenly understood, like, people who are in the, what's your audience? Like people who are in the self-development work type thing?
I would say it's a lot of men who are at that stage where they're just like, they're looking to level up, majority. Maybe, okay, what can I get so I can like get to that next level? There's a lot of like entrepreneurial type people, leaders.
Yeah.
And then also I would say there's like 30%, 40% of women who are also high performing entrepreneurs as well, who are one, they're like, how can I level up myself and open myself up into love? And also, how can I open my partner up into more? How can I help him set the standard in some way? Like, what do I need to do to be able to let that come into my life? That's like the main audience. Awesome.
Love that. So if you're a high performer, like you and I both are, then if you're a high performer and you're consistently looking to level up, but you don't change the game that you're playing and actually understand the context from which you are approaching your journey, like, are you chasing money and success because you know you're worthy of it and you just are so full that you have nothing else to do other than do that thing? Or are you chasing it to prove something to yourself and your life, and ultimately to prove and gain validation and feel worthy after achieving it? And if you're playing this second game, you'll never, ever win, because you'll get to the mountain and you'll realize that it doesn't fill you up in the way that you desire. So psychedelics have fundamentally helped helped me like tap into the embodiment of that place. And each time I've had a journey, I've sat with, you know, pretty much every psychedelic that there is to experience now, and I've had hundreds of journeys. I go through a deep level up, and it helps me return to what's really important in my life. It's like a fast start, you know. It's like jumping ahead. Yeah, because what actually happens when you take mushrooms is the back part of your brain, called the default mode network. Default mode, it's where all our default patterns, habits, beliefs, tendencies are all in there. Like your reaction when your partner is like pissed off at you and like calls you, you know, and you know that she's pissed off at you, and you pick up the phone, you're like, what? You know, that's a default pattern. So, but also is how you interact in social environments, your attraction patterns, the way that you try to control things in your work environment, and the thing that's getting in your way from scaling your business even further. All of these are default patterns. So when that part of your brain starts to shut down, you can experience yourself without your default patterns, without all the conditioned tendencies. And when you can experience ultimately your true essence, it's like, oh shit, wow, okay, that's who I really am. And that's what's really available to me. That's, wow, I really am limitless. Holy shit, I really am abundant. Like tapping into all of that. And then when you come out of the trip, your life isn't different, but you've got an experience of difference, and your brain has actually hardwired new neural pathways. So yeah, it's like they say it takes 60 days to create a habit. You can create habits using psychedelics like within 8 hours on a journey, because your brain is actively seeking to create new neural pathways. So basically, man, the retreat that I run is once a year. It's called the Infinite Potential Retreat. The next one is coming up in Portugal in July. It's for anyone who's looking.
Had a big smile on your face as you were saying that. Sorry, I just had to say, I was like, you had such a big face. Like,
oh man, I'm so excited. It's like my favorite thing to do.
Sorry, it's in July this year.
Yeah, it's in July this year. And yeah, it's for anyone who's looking to embody their limitless self and actually go away for a week, do some deep work, and then go back to their life having experienced transformation and change. So, you know, we go deep in this retreat. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, if you want to get away in somewhere amazing for a week, well, you know, I'll give you the links and stuff like that so you can check it out.
Yeah, all the links and stuff will be below. Dude, 9 grams of mushrooms is a lot of mushrooms, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I've taken more than that, but certain people have certain callings, right? And I realized one day that was my calling. Like, I don't know many other people that suddenly wake up one day consistently and are like, I need to take 12 grams of mushrooms today just to see what happens. So yeah, man. And when you're facilitating with a medicine in a space, it's important that it's important that I know exactly where everyone is in their journey, and I've experienced it. So
yeah, it's so true. And yeah, I think it's awesome, man. I think that's like, you know, a testament to, especially some people have that nature where it's like, you will just surrender and lean in and really let go. And I think that's like a real cool quality that you have, and just that curiosity to explore there and go into that world. What's been one of the most transformational ones for you?
Like transformational mushroom journeys?
Yeah.
For sure, that like big one that I mentioned, the 9 gram one. You know, I was with Preston Smiles actually, and he had asked me a question in an ayahuasca journey 2 days before, and it was, how much love can you receive? How much love will you allow yourself to receive in this now moment? And so I was repeating that question to myself over and over again on the mountain. How much love will I allow myself to receive in this now moment? how much love can I receive in this now moment? And eventually I was just crying and crying and crying because I could just feel my body being filled up with so much love. And, you know, that was such a pivotal transformational journey. You know, I've had other journeys where I've literally faced off with my own death. This might scare a few people, but you know, like my body was going through a lot of stuff. It was simulating symptoms and heart rate, and I was having hot and cold flushes and literally thought I was dying. And got to a place of surrender and letting go. And the moment I did that, I literally pissed myself and was like farting and everything. It's just like my body was letting go of so much stuff. And on the other side of that was like this explosion of creativity and abundance and realization of like truly how much is possible for every single individual. So yeah, I've had stuff like that, man. I've gone into journeys. I've gone into journeys and like literally come out and been like, I know how to make millions more money now. Like I've just blasted through a level of abundance. Yeah. Yeah, so much. Like for a period, I was doing it twice monthly, and it was just like upgrade. And then, you know, after a while I sort of stopped for a while. But yeah, man, it's a beautiful, beautiful medicine, beautiful gift. I just find that it really has helped me to let go of my attachments to how things should be or my expectations, so that I can actually experience the beauty of what is.
I swear you've said so many things in this podcast, bro, that have been straight fire.
Yeah.
I think you know it too. You're like, I said that was pretty good. Man, for people in the situation where they are having some good things happen, and they have had some good things happen, and things are getting a little bit, you would say, just a little bit frustrating or stagnant, and they're looking at getting to that next level, and they're just like sort of frustrated with themselves and how things are currently at the moment. Just from like Alex Waters' advice, what sort of things would you like to say to encourage them to get to the next level, recommend them to do or try?
Yeah. The first thing is like go into fully feeling whatever's coming up. If it's frustration and anger, and like anger at yourself and anger at your fucking situation and the glass ceiling that you keep hitting, feel it. Fucking rage about it. Let it all out, because on the other side of that emotion is usually a burst of clarity and peace and like, you know, just realization. So I think that that's definitely the first thing. And a lot of what most people do is they just get stuck in their head. They don't let themselves feel what's really coming up, and they can't move beyond it because they're literally, so you use the word stagnant. Well, what is stagnant? It's all connected, right? So if the energy in your body, your emotion is stagnant, you're going to feel fucking stagnant because you're not letting it move. If you want to create motion in your life, let the motion happen in your body first. It all starts within, like literally, it's all connected. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, why is it important to you? You know, why is it actually important to you to level up? And when you can get to the bottom of that paradigm and really understand whether you are following a deeper calling or whether you're just trying to practically control your life to get a certain result because you think that freedom is on the other side of that result. You know, you can do it, but you're not going to feel free on the other side of it. You know, and then the third thing would be get fucking help, man. Like everyone that I know that's leveled up, that's gone through changes, transitions, had huge levels of success, has had coaches and has mentors and has friendship circles. Like people like you and, you know, Glenn and all the dudes who set the standard as well, that just are awesome human beings that have a high standard of living and want to do great things. Because when you put yourself amongst people who are a little bit ahead of you in some ways, you just absorb that like a sponge and you get brought up to their level, you know. And one of the best ways to do that is by jumping in people's coaching programs and stuff like that. So
so cool. I swear you've like, I don't know if you've intentionally or unintentionally just like punched me in the face a couple of times in the podcast as well. Like,
oh, really? No, not at all.
That's a couple of things you said I just real resonated with, man. So before we jump off the podcast, where can people find you? Where can they like, what are the things that they can search for to look at you? And then I've got one more question.
Yeah, Instagram's a good place. At Alexander Waters. I'm also that on TikTok. But I love connecting with new people on Instagram, especially. And, you know, my DMs are always open. And you can also find out all the information for my coaching programs and retreat as well via my Instagram bio.
Hell yeah. And I like to leave just listeners with one challenge, like that they can literally implement today, tomorrow, or this week, from you for after listening to this podcast. So off the top of your head, what is one challenge that you'd like to give to the listeners that they can implement straight away?
Something that I'm currently like in at the moment and challenging myself is to spend about 10 minutes a day, like literally just dreaming, like letting myself dream of all the possibilities that my soul actually deeply wants, and truly like listening to that voice, like guide me, please, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, like, please just guide me, give me like, what are the dreams, and like letting them all come up and just really going into them, because you know, like that's really what life's about, is just letting yourself dream and letting yourself have that experience. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, man.
That's so cool. You're so cool.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate it.
Seriously. And yeah, I actually think you're so amazing. Like as you were talking and you were Bridge and Extreme and stuff, I'm like stuck out. Just generally think you're amazing and want you to hear that.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you too. And appreciate the work that you're doing in the world, helping so many men and people up level. And just, you know, this is important and valuable. And I just want to honor you and acknowledge you for putting your time and energy and giving away this free content, like, you know, creating a platform for this, like you're doing, man, because I have no doubt it's helping people.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm practicing receiving at the moment. Well, man, thank you so much for coming onto the show, and yeah, we'll chat soon.
Thank you, bro.